So now that I've had a week to spend with this all-new Lexus GX550 luxury SUV that is a very off-road capable luxury SUV, I have my opinions, I have my impressions on what I think this thing is all about, and I'd like to share them with you. Hang tight, I'll be right back. So quickly talking about a few specs, this has a V6, it's a twin-turbo 3.4 liter, it produces 349 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. This is definitely what I would consider to be a relatively high-performance off-road luxury SUV. It gets about 15 miles per gallon in the city, 21 on the highway with a combined 17 miles per gallon. That to me is not good. I don't like those numbers. Those numbers definitely speak of a vehicle that would traditionally have a pretty healthy gas guzzling V8, and I think Lexus could have absolutely done better in the fuel economy area by giving this thing maybe a little bit less performance but much better fuel economy. I would have liked to see this in the 17 city, 24 highway with an average of like 21, but for this to have a combined MPG of around 17, we actually got about 16.9, and that's including highway trips. Not very impressive. I do wish they would do better there. The performance, though, is pretty dang good. 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds, which is actually really good for a vehicle of this size, with a top track speed of 109 miles an hour, which I would never go in a vehicle like this. This Lexus is equipped with the 10-speed automatic direct shift transmission, and it's full-time four-wheel drive with Torsen limited slip center differential and locking features. So this gives you the ability to lock the rear end and the center differential as well. Now that we've gotten some of the specs out of the way, let's talk about my impressions. Driving impressions first. First and foremost, this is absolutely one of the most pleasant SUVs to drive. From a luxury and ride perspective, it is plush, it is supple, it feels great. Honestly, this has an absolutely amazing ride characteristic to it, and with the different drive modes that you can select, you can tune the suspension specifically for how you're planning on driving. For us, we pretty much kept this in either comfort or standard mode, and that was perfect. Like I said, the ride characteristics of this SUV are definitely tailored more towards the softer side, but it has an absolutely pleasant and plush suspension, which is really a pleasure to be in on longer trips. So let's talk about nighttime driving. We actually spent a good amount of time on some highways at night, and I had a great opportunity to see just how good the headlights are on this Lexus. Lexus has always done really well when it comes to headlight output, what it looks like, the cutoff, everything that you would want in a premium vehicle with really good headlights, and this one definitely didn't disappoint. They're auto leveling, and they also auto rotate depending on your steering wheel, and they cast a brilliant pattern on the road, and they produce a really clean cutoff line. The only issue we had was while we were driving, it felt on some of the highways as if the low beam output was a little low. And what I mean low, not by brightness standards, but just how it actually appeared on the road. It was a little bit too close to the ground, and it would have been nice to be able to manually adjust that, like you see in some vehicles where you can have the headlights go up or down slightly with a button inside of the vehicle. The high beam output, on the other hand, was absolutely insane. It has probably the best high beam output I've ever seen on a vehicle, and it really came in handy, especially on some of those really long, dark Texas highways at night. We used the radar cruise control extensively. It worked flawlessly. We had no problems with it. And the heads-up display coupled with the radar cruise control really gives you a good idea of what's in front of you and what's going on around you whenever you're using that radar cruise control system. Basically, whenever you're approaching a vehicle, to be able to make any changes you need to make, to be able to control the distance that it's going to follow the vehicle in front of you was really good, and we had no problems with that at all. But that's also a feature you're starting to see in just about every other vehicle now. Having radar cruise control is absolutely not a new feature or game-changing, but when it works really well with the vehicle you're in, that does matter. Now, when it comes to seat comfort, these seats are absolutely insanely comfortable. They're heated and they're ventilated, and they are just the definition of a comfortable seat. We were on a 5-hour drive, actually 2.5 hours there, 2.5 hours back, and I can tell you that I never at any point felt as if I had back discomfort or any problems like that. These are not massaging seats, but honestly, they were so comfortable they didn't need to be. When we look at the amount of space that's in here, you're going to find that the interior interior of this is a little narrower than you might think whenever you think of a GX. And it's not a big deal up front. I think most people would approve of the width and the space you get in the front. The seats are nice and wide, you got great bolstering, it's a good sized center console, center armrest area, and the passenger front seat is also really nicely laid out. Of course, everything's power up here and everything's placed in a very convenient, easily accessible area. Where things get a little bit different is when we look in the back seat. So as we look in the back, this is one area that you definitely have to be aware of what size SUV you're looking at. It is not incredibly spacious back here. You're not going to have a tremendous amount of knee room. You're not going to have a tremendous amount of width right here. This is not a full-size SUV. So you have to remember that. If you're comparing this against something like a Tahoe or an Expedition or a Navigator, you're not going to have the same width in here. And again, you just have to be aware of the fact that because this is not a full-size SUV, if you have 3 people sitting across the back here, that it might be a little tight for whoever's in the middle. That said, the seats are really comfortable. They recline. They are not heated in this specific package, but this being an overtrail package, it's not as heavily equipped with luxury features as you would get in the higher trim packages. I love the fact, though, that the seats do recline, has a great center console area right here, and it is a good amount of space, especially if you have kids. If you're going to try to haul adults back here, this is where things can get a little cramped. And when we went on a road trip, we actually realized that when we had the grandparents on the side and our daughter in the center, and everyone felt a little bit cramped. But again, just keep in mind, we are talking about a mid-size SUV, and almost any mid-size SUV is going to have those similar type characteristics in terms of that amount of space you get side to side if you have 3 people in the second row. Now, as you drop the seat down and stow it out of the way, you can actually see that the seat folds up and it gives you a tremendous amount of space back here. You actually have a really good amount of space back here to be able to carry whatever you need with you, especially with the cover to give you some privacy as well. But we had no problem with the amount of space back here for storing things. To kind of sum things up, if you were looking for a luxury mid-size SUV, 2-row, this is not a 3rd-row SUV, that has an insane amount of off-road characteristics and DNA built into it, this is something you should look at. This is the equivalent of a super luxurious version of a Toyota Land Cruiser. Things have kind of changed a little bit with how everything's named, but this is an absolutely stellar vehicle to own. Again, super comfortable, super capable, has so much off-road capability that it just gives you a lot of peace of mind if you are going on a trip and you know that you may encounter, really bad weather where you may need to use that always-on 4-wheel drive. With a maximum towing capacity of 9,063 pounds and a trailer brake controller already inside of it, this gives you a tremendous amount of capability to do a lot of things that you might want to do with a mid-size SUV. Shoot, this actually has more tow capacity than a lot of full-size SUVs and even many pickup trucks. To put that in comparison, it actually has a higher rated tow capacity than our GMC Denali half-ton pickup truck. And for those of you wondering what the cargo capacity on this one is, it is 1,545 pounds, which actually is a higher cargo capacity than our half-ton GMC Denali pickup truck. And this is still a very luxuriously equipped SUV. So at roughly $75,000 for a really well-equipped, mid-size, super luxurious off-road SUV with over 9,000 pounds of tow capacity and over 1,500 pounds worth of cargo capacity, which again, both towing and cargo capacity are actually higher than our 2023 GMC Sierra Denali half-ton pickup truck with the Duramax diesel engine in it. At this point, really the only thing that the pickup truck has that kind of outclasses this is the fact that we get a bed and we get better fuel economy because it has that baby Duramax in it. But if you are looking for a mid-size SUV with all those specs plus a trailer brake controller, you should definitely put this on your list, because believe it or not, when you compare this to the price of a lot of semi-luxurious SUVs, it's actually about the same. With Lexus, you're getting the quality, you're getting the interior, you're getting the ride comfort, you're getting the off-road capability, and you're getting a tremendous amount of capability if you are looking to tow a trailer, especially from a towing and a cargo carrying perspective, plus the trailer brake controller. Anyways, I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.